start. This is the final portion of this particular series, and John and Carol have willingly stepped up to talk to us about their experience, and you all know them, so I don't think they need much introduction. And I don't know how we want to do this as a team, but you've been a team for a long time, so thank you.
Right. We're happy to have this opportunity to share our journey through life and through faith. We've been married for 58 years. Wow. We have 3 children and 6 grandsons. So,
wow. Look at that right there.
There they are.
Wow.
Wow, that's great. As a child, I was a Christian Scientist, and I went to Sunday school with neighbors. My family weren't particularly religious, although I lived with my grandparents. My grandmother was an AME, but I spent my childhood and teen years as a Christian Scientist. John, on the other hand, was a Baptist. And when we dated, we went to the Methodist church. So we really didn't have a church home. We built our house, our home in White Plains in 1963. And by that time, we had 3 children. And neighbors who came to Grace Church. The Stigtons, I don't know if anyone still remembers them. And Victoria wanted to go, Victoria, our oldest child, wanted to go to Sunday school with them. And that happened for a couple of years probably. And we had 2 younger children. And we attended church. And finally, Father Whedon came to visit us and said, "Don't you think it's about time that you guys started coming to church?" So we did. And I had not been baptized. Victoria wasn't baptized. So both of us were baptized the same day, Victoria and I. Oh. And the next day, John, Victoria and I were confirmed. So this was in 1967. So, and subsequently, our other children were baptized and confirmed here in Grace Church. And Sunday school, Wednesday religious school, if any of you remember that, on Wednesday afternoon, the kids would come for that. And we sang in a family choir, which Fred Henry organized. So they stayed with Grace Church through high school as usual. And I was a Sunday school teacher and a vestry member, and finally senior warden in a very difficult time at Grace Church. But we went through that, and you know, no matter how many rectors we went through, Grace Church is still here and will be here. No matter how long.
So you'll survive me.
So, during all this time, John was building his career, and by 1975, he was a motion picture film editor, and he commuted from White Plains to California.
Although I was away from my home here, my church, I always made it. I always made it to the local church, which I was surrounded by. I don't think I could have made it too well without being part of the church, a member of the congregation of the church. I did a lot of traveling, and as a matter of fact, it was like commuting for 33 years from my home here in White Plains to California. I could never really consider California a home. I regret now, of course, that I was not flexible enough to do that, because after 33 years of commuting, I could have had a house there. If I had invested in a house there, it would have been very profitable now. But I couldn't get with my family back here, it's hard to have a home elsewhere. So anyway, I felt that the community of a church is different from the community in the business world, in a sense that it is based on a belief, a comfortable belief. And that's what I had. Because of my association here with Grace Church, and I felt not only being away from my family, I was in a situation in which I couldn't find a comfortable stable. And what going to church in California was able to do was give me a sense of stability. Because of you can relate, no matter what church you go to, the basis is, at least the churches that I was able to attend in California, it's based on, do you believe in Jesus Christ? And the community of the church gives you that comfortable sameness, whether you're here in Grace Church or in California in Grace Church, in a church. So I feel that very strongly that if I had not found a community, a church community that I could visit on Sundays, and I did. I went to church every Sunday, and it would allow me to be successful in my work. In the motion picture industry, of course, it's make-believe land. And the important thing is how you relate to people. And the industry, no matter what the discipline is that you are in, whether it's film, whether it's camera, sound, I find that everyone has one goal, and that is to complete the movie. And my time's up. I find that the interest, the dedication to one's work, and whatever disciplines you're in, you're looking for excellence. And I think like maybe the difference between it and many industries, the devotion to your skill, the devotion to your work is keener. Everyone has a jealousy of wanting to contribute to the whole, the picture. And the support is there. On any average film, you have at least 100 people. Whether it's a modest film, or of course you could have heard much more if it's a bigger picture. But what I'm feeling, my feeling is that the most devotion to your craft and your particular contribution is paramount. And everyone is jealous in that situation. They're not competing against each other in the various disciplines, but their aim is to make their contribution as good as possible. So I enjoyed that because you see the camaraderie in the task. I just feel that if I had any doubts that it was close. If I had any doubts, it was close by my relationship with my colleagues, and the fact that we were all interested in one thing, which was making the film the best it could be. So I was able, another thing, I was able to do that because I knew that Carol back here was doing and had the responsibility, whole responsibility of raising our children. And within my working career, whenever I decided that I might want to make a change, going from being an editor at CBS, I worked for CBS for about 12 years, and I enjoyed the work. My last 4 years of my tenure at CBS, I was the supervising editor of a series called Eye on New York. And through that period, I was assigned to work on the Ed Sullivan Show, which I did for a number of years. And what would happen is a star from California would come in to be interviewed by Ed Sullivan, and they would bring a clip of film, usually about 5 minutes, of whatever show they were in at that time. And what would happen is, during the programming, of course, Ed Sullivan was a live show, and he would always have guests there, various guests. During dress rehearsal on a Saturday, of course, the producers would time their act, and they would know how to program, because in television, every minute is really precious, and they have this piece, because of commercials, whatever. Timing is absolute. But what would happen is dress rehearsal on Saturday, and they would perform on Sunday. But they would, once they were on stage, if on Saturday their performance was 5 minutes, on Sunday it would be 5 minutes and 20 seconds. It's hard to get them off stay on the stage as long as milking the books. Okay? So the editor's job with the film was the only constant and absolute in terms of time. And so if during the running on the Sunday, the producers would keep track of course, the time that they were on, so they would be able to finish on time, or the exact time. If by the third portion of the show, if they were running, say, 10 seconds late or 20 seconds late, whatever, it would mean that the only place they could make up the time would be in the film clip that we have, because that's a physical thing. It's absolutely, it's just a matter of taking the 20 seconds out or the 10 seconds out. And so I was assigned, a fellow went on vacation that normally handled the Ed Sullivan show. And I was asked by my supervisor to take that, his job to do the editing for a particular show, which I did. But in doing that, the next week, when the fellow was back from vacation, my supervisor, of course, just routinely assigned him to the show, and someone was not happy with his work, and told that the next week they told my boss that he wanted me to do his show. And Ed Sullivan's name was so important back in those days. He was so big that whatever Ed wanted, he got. So I started doing the Ed Sullivan show. And through that, my name got around the studio a lot. And that's when they decided to start a new department in which they would do all the documentaries on in a separate department, like a separate department for documentaries. And I was asked to be the supervising editor of the new department, which I did. And after a number of years, I did that for about 4 years, and they decided to put the documentary unit under the aegis of the news department for streamlining various the period they were going into a lot of streamlining and changing the structures of the departments. I was not interested in working under the news department, because what happens is that you lose your ability to be creative in a sense, because the reporters and the news, whenever they had a news clip, they determined how much they wanted the car running through the light or the accident that occurred, whether it was a long shot and how long that shot should be. So you're just sitting there, say, giving 10 seconds, 2 seconds of this, 5 seconds of this, etc. So I was not really interested in that kind of way. So I decided to retire and go into, I wanted feature films, do more creative work. Now we have young children at home, and I talked it over with Carol. I told her I think I could do better if I went freelance and started my own company. She didn't hesitate 1 minute. She said, if that's what you want to do it. I retired and started my own company. What year was it?
1968.
through that, when I retired from CBS, my first client was Ed Sullivan. He was doing a tour of Army hospitals and visiting veterans in bed. And he wanted to make a documentary of that experience. So Ed producers, got in touch with me and we talked about it. And I was hired to do that first. That was my first, Ed Sullivan was my first client. The equipment I started my business with, I bought from CBS. And I must say that the only reason I was able to afford it is because they practically gave me the equipment. So I did that, and after doing the Ed Sullivan show, I began to get other clients based on the work that I did. So I was, my career, I could have only had because of the assistance and the encouragement that I got from Carol. So she was very important to me. But the one very, I must say that I accomplished quite good. I'm very pleased with my non-contribution fee, my work. But I could not have done that being away, basically, for back commuting for about 30 years. If I did not have a strong Christian background, my mother was very religious, and I think that maybe also shut. I relied on her prayers more than I did my own. I had more faith in my mother's prayers, and it took me a long time to really feel that I could communicate with the Spirit of Jesus Christ. And because of my mother, I was able to do that.
We've really been blessed in our lives, the two of us, and we feel that way every day.
If there are any questions that you may have.
And those pictures are some of the, our grandson put those pictures together for John's 90th birthday. So some of those pictures you'll see his career in films.
Was most of your film work in documentaries, or did you do a great variety?
I did a variety, but most of my work was feature films.
You mean the ones like we'd see at the movies?
Yes.
Oh, could you name a few? I'd be interested.
There's a whole
They're
list
in that
in the book that you have now.
Well,
Yeah,
I know,
Well,
but
some of us may not have the book, so
yeah,
you
and
would be
I'm
great
trying
if
to
you
go
could say
through the
something.
book.
Yeah.
Well, barbershop, to my lips are so.
Yeah.
Speaking by barbershop, soul food.
Gooding, what's the name of it? With Gooding.
Men of Honor.
Men of Honor.
Men of Honor.
One with Eddie Murphy.
Yeah. Sister Act 2.
Yeah.
She was a pleasure. Just as you see her on TV, that's real.
But he did a major documentary with Memphis to Montgomery with Martin Luther King.
Wow. That was one of my first videos.
And didn't that win an Emmy?
It was an award.
Yeah.
Carol, I know you were still working also as a teacher,
That's right.
and at the same time, you were raising the children and really managing this bi-coastal relationship.
That's right.
How did you find that? Because in many ways, you were like a single parent part-time,
That's true.
and then joint parent part-time, and they didn't have Skype then. How did you, how did you manage that and still,
That's not.
and I noticed that I watched John with the children, and he still has that relationship, which means that there's somehow or another you created that environment. And how did you do that, and how did the church even assist you in that?
Well,
Ella tells me
they always knew what their father was doing. When he was in New York, and they were younger, we would go to wherever he was working. So they had a visual image of where he was when he was away from home. He was always home for Christmas. When they were younger, we would go to California on school holidays. They knew that we had a strong relationship together. And Dad was always in charge, basically. They knew John always knew what they were doing. So that I think that the church was a stable force. It's like I just saw this morning something called, it was a spiritual sanctuary of the church for us. We were all grounded in going to church, whether they do it now or not. I felt I did a good job.
Carol, you kind of glossed over what you called a difficult time in our church, but I remember it, and I'm sure a lot of us do, and I thought that was one of the greatest things of your whole career, that you got us through that.
But I didn't do it by myself.
No.
The Lord was with us.
You were the leader. You were the instrument.
Okay, Father Whedon was a lifeline.
Yes.
And I hear that, I mean, he supported me and everything he does, but you never forget him.
That's
You
right.
never forget him, because he was right there.
No, I can remember him coming into our living room and asking us, well, what about you guys? Why aren't you going? And so he really was instrumental in bringing us into Grace Church.
And yeah, he said to Mrs. Williams and Eileen, where do you live? You belong here. I mean, the man was something.
That's right.
Carol, I want to know, Victoria, what's the space in between the children?
Victoria is the oldest. Jack is 3 years younger, and then Lynn, 5 years younger than Victoria. So they're, Lynn just turned 50. Our youngest just turned 50.
Carol, was that time, that difficult time, was that a challenge to your faith?
I think it strengthened me. I really do. Because I had to be strong, but I didn't do it by myself. The Lord was with me all the way through that difficult time, and we went through it, and he helped us survive.
John, you mentioned the word commuting. What is commuting from California? I mean, every weekend, once a month, or what is that?
Once I became independent, I had an agent, a very good agent.
Oh.
And, well, actually, the agents, they keep you in the clients. have to excuse me because when I was functioning, I was in very good shape. But I find it's very nice to be 90 years old.
That's all right. That's all right.
My vocabulary has diminished. What is your question?
Well, I was wondering how you commuted, that is,
Oh.
on weekends or after a job
No,
or?
see, excuse me. When you're assigned a job,
Right.
the average movie takes about 9 months to make the average one. So I would know that once I was assigned to a project, I knew I'd be away from home between 7 to 9 months. And Carol was aware of that. The movie, when the movie is being shot, for the first day the movie is, they're on the set and they're shooting. The material that they shoot that day gets processed the night. We're talking about film.
Yeah, it's a whole different world.
Right. The film will go into the lab and process it during the day. We come out in the morning and sent to the editing room. And from that time, excuse me, please, I'm really funny. From the first day you get your film in the room, it's being processed by your assistant, so that I'm editing as the director is shooting. Every day, whatever he shoots that day goes into the lab at night, comes to my cutting room that next morning, and you start. What you try to do as an editor is stay as close to the shooting of the movie as you can. So by the time the movie is finished shooting, I have, for the last day the film comes into the cutting room, I have 10 days. Oh, thanks. I have 10 days before I have to show the director his film, all put together with what we call a rough cut. All the music is not in, some of the sound, some of the effects may not be in, but the basic film is put together. The director comes into the cutting room and starts working with me. The director comes in and starts working with me, and he has 10 weeks before he has to show the film to the studio at all. So within a certain definite phrase, you can tell where you stand in terms of the completion of the movie. And the downside of that is that once they decide to make a movie, they begin to write the release date that they're going to show. So everything is shot. See? So that what happens is that the director is always on guard for time, because they know when the year they want to release it, and you know, the month, etc. Or they end it. Now, to answer your question, I would very rarely did I come back home doing the shooting of a movie. Once you're there, you know, it's
You had to
every
wait till
day.
the job was finished.
Yes.
He was always home for Christmas.
Okay.
That seemed to be a holiday for everybody.
Good.
So, before any other questions, I have to go, but I want to thank you all And I'm continually struck by the depth of experience of the people in this parish. It's a gift. So thank you for sharing with us. I have to go now because I have a deadline.
John, I know you were a pioneer in this industry. How many minorities are involved in it now in terms of the aspects?
That's really a good question. I was the first African-American editor to work for CBS or any television station as an editor. When I sworn into the local here, editors local here in New York, there was one other black editor. Today, there are a number of excellent editors, but not nearly as many as there should be. So we're still, the fortunate thing is we have more black directors, and the director is the one who hires the editor. The editor is paid by the producers, but he works for the director. And so since we have more directors, we're developing a lot more or behind the screen editing technicians.
How did you learn your craft?
I went to a motion picture institute in Brooklyn out after on the GI Bill. I got working too. And from there,